If I had only known the last time would be the last time, I would have put off all the things I had to do. I would have stayed a little longer, held on a little tighter. Now what I'd give for one more day with you. Cause there's a wound here in my heart where something's missing, and they tell me that it's gonna heal with time. But I know you're in a place where all your wounds have been erased, and knowing yours are healed is healing mine. The only scars in heaven that won't belong to me and you. There'll be no such thing as broken, and all the old will be made new. And the thought that makes me smile now, even as the tears fall down, is that the only scars in heaven are on the hands that hold you now. I know the road you walked was anything but easy. You picked up your share of scars along the way. Oh, but now you're standing in the sun. You fought your fight and your race is run. The pain is all a million miles away. The only scars in heaven that won't belong to me and you. There'll be no such thing as broken, and all the old will be made new. And the thought that makes me smile now, even as the tears fall down, is that the only scars in heaven, yeah, are on the hands that hold you now. There's not a day goes by that I don't see you.
I was glad when they said, "Let us come into the house of the Lord." I welcome you this day to this service. We're gathered here to pay tribute to and honor a life that has been lived, that of Don Hill. I'd like to begin by reading his obituary. Donald Wayne Hill of Cairo, age 91, passed away on Saturday, February 19, 2022, at McLaren, Cairo region, with the comfort of knowing that he was loved unconditionally by his family. Don was born July 3, 1930, in Flint, Michigan, the son of Orville Hill and Thurma Patterson Hill. He was united in marriage with the former Golden Louise Whitty on January 15, 1951, in San Angelo, Texas. The couple recently celebrated 71 years of marriage. Don graduated from Davison High School and soon after went to serve in the United States Air Force for 6 years, from 1948 to 1954. He was honorably discharged as a tech sergeant. Don was a member of the Cairo United Methodist Church. He owned Hill's Grocery Store for 8 years and worked at the U.S. Post Office in Cairo, DeFord, North Branch, and Linwood. He began as a mail carrier and retired as postmaster. Following his retirement, he was a bus driver at Cairo Community Schools for 9 years. Don was a man who loved helping people. He loved this country, and he loved life. He was an amazing and caring man who is now at peace. He will be missed tremendously. In addition to his wife, Don is survived by 3 loving children: Patricia A. Smith, Richard; Ricky A. Hill, Terry; and Marcia A. Kaplaniak, Michael. 8 grandchildren: Jason Jacobus, Kevin Jacobus, Karen Gray, Ryan Jacobus, Nathan Hill, Nicole DeGain, Elena Ferguson, Ashley Kaplaniak. 11 great-grandchildren, 2 great-great-grandchildren, and sister Sharon McCready, Mitch. Don was preceded in death by his father and stepmother, Orville and Alvaretta Hill, mother and stepfather, Thurma and Mel Greaves, stepson, Ira, sister, Phyllis Roy, brothers, Larry Hill and Ronnie Hill. These words speak only in part of what has brought each of you here today. Each has come with your own special memories of Don. We assemble here to mark his passing and to celebrate his life. Khalil Gibran in his book wrote, "When you are sorrowful, look again in your heart, and you shall see that in truth you are weeping for that which has been your delight." I know that Don has been a joy and a blessing in your lives and in the lives of so many others. You are here today honoring that connection. Later in this service, I will offer an opportunity for any of you who would like to share a few thoughts or a special memory about Don a chance to do so. Please be thinking about that. Don and his wife are longtime choir members of this church, and I was told that he loved to sing his favorite hymns, and especially in the shower. May we now join together in singing "Victory in Jesus," which is number 370 in your hymnal, and please stand if you are able.
Glory,
You may be seated. No, this very day, Don is joyously celebrating that victory. Will you please bow your heads in prayer? Gracious and almighty God, we come thankful for your love and grace in our lives and seeking your peace. We know Don has returned to you and is safe and well in your loving presence. We'd ask for your strength to uphold all gathered here. Grant them the courage to continue to carry on their lives in his absence. Help those closest to Don find a new normal in the days that lie ahead. May the words spoken and the memories shared continue the bonds and mark forever upon their hearts Don's importance in their lives. We do not, as a people, easily or willingly let go, even with one well beyond the allotted 70 years. We must recognize that it is your perfect timing that runs the universe, not ours. There comes a time when we are all called home. Trusting in your promises to us, help us to recognize your divine order and that there is a higher good. We thank you for comforting all present in this their time of need and surrounding them with your grace, love, compassion, and peace. We pray these things to you as we join together in the prayer Jesus taught us to say. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen. And the glory forever. I have every confidence that of Don that you most knew and loved is today just fine, whole, and complete. Also, the very best of who he was remains in your hearts. He has completed his life's journey and entered into that mystery that we just don't quite understand. But our faith in God tells us that Don is whole and well, basking in God's grace and glory at this very moment. We must also remember that our world is one small slice of the greater whole, but it is our slice for now, and Don's physical presence is greatly missed. We do know he will remain near to those he loved. They may feel his presence in the quiet times, as the hearts of those who have loved are never really separated. I imagine Don surrounded by your love and cherishing the time he spent with you, much like it is described by Warren Hansen in his picture book, The Next Place. Speaking of one's death, he wrote, "I will travel empty-handed. There's not a single thing I've collected in my life that I would ever want to bring, except the love of those who loved me and the warmth of those who cared, the happiness and the memories and the magic that we shared. Though I will know the joy of solitude, I'll never be alone. I'll be embraced by all the family and friends I've ever known. Although I might not see their faces, all our hearts will beat as one, and the circle of our spirits will shine brighter than the sun. I will cherish all the friendship I was fortunate to find, all the love and all the laughter in the place I leave behind. All these good things will go with me. They will make my spirit glow, and that light will shine forever in the next place that I go." I imagine a part of each of you has gone with Don and will stay there with him in that next place until it is your time to share in that joy. Now we will listen to Scars in Heaven, sung by Casting Crowns.
If I had only known the last time would be the last time, I would have put off all the things I had to do. I would have stayed a little longer, held on a little tighter. Now what I'd give for one more day with you. 'Cause there's a wound here in my heart where something's missing, and they tell me that it's gonna heal with time. But I know you're in a place where all your wounds have been erased. And knowing yours are healed is healing mine. The only scars in heaven that won't belong to me and you. There'll be no such thing as broken, and all the old will be made new. And the thought that makes me smile now, even as the tears fall down, is that the only scars in heaven are on the hands that hold you now. I know the road you walked was anything but easy. You picked up your share of scars along the way. Oh, but now you're standing in the sun. You fought your fight and your race is run. The pain is all 1,000,000 miles away. The only scars in heaven that won't belong to me and you. There'll be no such thing as broken, and all the old will be made new. And the thought that makes me smile now, even as the tears fall down, is that the only scars in heaven, yeah, are on the hands that hold you now. There's not a day goes by that I don't see you. You live on in all the better parts of me. Until I'm standing with you in the sun, I'll fight this fight and this race I'll run, until I finally see what you can see. Oh, the only scars in heaven that won't belong to me and you. There'll be no such thing as broken, and all the old will be made new. And the thought that makes me smile now, and even as the tears fall down, is that the only scars in heaven are on the hands that hold you now.
We find comfort in the words of our faith, the very familiar 23rd Psalm, a psalm of David. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Today, Don is joined in that household with God. Again, from the psalmist, there are these words of assurance, reading from Psalm 56, verses 3 through 4a. When I'm afraid, I put my trust in thee. In God, whose word I praise, in God I trust without a fear. In times as this, we need to trust in that higher good and be comforted by the reassurance of the knowledge that God's love and grace extend to all of us. No one is beyond their reach. And from the New Testament, John 14, 1 through 3, hear the words of Jesus. Let not your hearts be troubled. Believe in God. Believe also in me. In my Father's house are many rooms. If it were not so, would I have told you that I go and prepare a place for you? And when I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and will take you to myself, that where I am, you may be also. As I said, it's easy for me to believe at this very moment, Don is living in his heavenly home, reunited with those he loved who have gone before him. We have a faith that tells us, even in this mystery of death, that this is possible, and you too, someday, will again be in his presence. And from the Beatitudes, hear the words of Jesus from Matthew 5, verse 4. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. In addition to knowing Don is safe with God, these are words of assurance for you who remain. God, through Jesus, is promising loving comfort to you, each one of you, during this most difficult time. You are not alone. You shall be comforted. Next, we're going to listen to Wind Beneath My Wings, sung by Bette Midler.
It must have been cold there in my shadow to never have sunlight.
please know that I'm very honored to be officiating this, Don's final service. I did not know him personally, but growing up here, I've long known of Hills from the grocery store. His daughter Marcia and I spent a year of our lives together as I was her teacher back in junior high. And we noted Wednesday in talking that was in Kern Hall, which is now a parking lot. Things move on. Yes, things do change. At this time, I would like to invite Marcia to come forward and share some thoughts about her father.
Bear with me. My dad had an infectious laugh. Most anything could trigger us to laugh. We at times would laugh so hard we had tears in our eyes. We only had to look at each other. It's his laughter I'm never going to forget. He truly treasured his wife in sickness and in health throughout their 71 years of marriage. This says a lot to me about the kind of man he was. He treasured us kids, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, great-grandchildren, always wanting to know how they were doing and what they've been up to. It's his caring I'll never forget. Dad helped all of his children doing our projects, like roofing, putting up fences, digging fence post holes, any project we had going on. If he was available, he would be the first to want to lend a helping hand. Later in his life, when he wasn't able to help the way he used to, he still did help us by the way of supervising. His supervising could be quite comical too. It's his helping hands that I'll never forget. He even helped us out if we were moving. I'm sure my sister Patty can relate to that. Got a box, get a drawer, dump the contents into the box, done. Woodworking was one of his passions. He had his own little workshop in his basement. He made something for everyone, whether it be candlestick holders, nice shelves, letter trays, beautiful lamps. Whatever he felt like making, those were the best gifts of all. You can't beat something that's homemade just for you. He loved to put together models. One of the pictures on the boards back there is him putting a model of a ship together. That was a pretty big model too. He also liked doing model airplanes and being in the Air Force, and he even got a plane of his own after. He would take us kids one at a time for a ride in it. I still remember it after all these years. Flying was fun, plus it had a neat cactus painted on the side of it. Puzzles were a thing when us kids were growing up at home, especially in the cold months. We all worked on them. Mom and Dad still did puzzles during the cold months up to the time he was no longer able to sit comfortably to do them. Playing card games was something also we all did. During the summertime when us kids were all still living at home on Guilford Road, I remember the good times of making homemade ice cream. It was so good. Us kids, along with Mom, would take turns sitting on the bucket of ice as he churned it. Friends were usually over when we did this, and we'd usually grill out and picnic in the backyard. One time, our neighbor Doris Vollmer made a cherry cobbler. She was walking across the street and dropped it. But nope, this didn't stop us from eating it off the ground. After all, it was fresh out of the oven, and we had to eat it before the ants got to it. When Mike, Ashley, and I lived in Texas, my parents would travel with friends, the Kellers, and stay at our house. We had so much fun when we were there. My dad would even help mowing the lawn, help with the laundry, and my mom, of course, too, and even do the dishes. He was helping my husband out with a tree that Mike had planted in our backyard. It was a banana tree, but it hadn't produced any bananas. So Dad got a fake banana and tied it to the tree, gave it good color. Then our dog ate the tree. Guess the tree wasn't meant to be. While in Texas, and they were visiting my daughter Ashley, who was about 3 or 4 at the time, she had an easy bake oven and wanted to make dessert for us all. We were served a piece of her cake, about 1 inch by a 1/2 inch. My dad's facial expression was priceless. It was like, where's the rest of it? And I have a picture of that as well. Christmas was always a time to remember. Santa always seemed to bring the gifts to my house that were for my parents. Never knew what he or mom would open from Santa. He got a can of beans, vitamins, cereal, puzzles, whatever. Usually ended up in laughter. Back in the early 90s, my dad took step aerobics class with me. I thought that was so cool of him to do that. He really got into it. Didn't matter if he had 2 left feet at the time. We had an awesome instructor, Jeannie Green. The Carroll Hospital would hold a charity ball every December. It was a dress-up event with good food and dancing. Mike and I would take my parents every year, and I got my dance with him. Moments I'll never forget. My dad's family really consisted of more than just us kids. He really got to know some people I work with at the hospital. Among a few was Deb in administration, Heather, who called him her firecracker, and the dietitian who referred to as the cookie lady, because he mostly got a cookie from her every time. Christy in housekeeping, who always stopped in to visit him and got him to smile and laugh. And then there's Gary, our physical therapist, who was absolutely amazing and encouraging, helping him and just talking with him. Dad thought very highly of him and spoke of him often at home. There was a time just recently that I was walking down the hospital patient wing and I was hit with a memory. It just crept up out of nowhere. Gary was walking and assisting an elderly patient, a man who looked just like my dad, and walking down the hallway with a walker, gait belt, and all. Seeing that was like seeing my dad walking with Gary, trying his best to get better. There's so many others he got to know at the hospital, like most everyone in lab, x-ray, nursing. He pretty much knew everybody, and they knew him. They knew when he was coming. Dr. Mafus was very good to my dad. Dad really liked and respected him. When going to some of his appointments with him, there was always humor involved, I swear. Working at Hill's Grocery, then later owning it, he got to know so many people. When he was a bus driver, he got to know the kids and their families, from kindergarten all the way through graduation. My parents got a lot of invites to graduations, even weddings and baby showers. Him being a mail carrier and a postmaster for years, he got to know so many people. He also actively served on the board for the Village of Carroll, so yes, he did have more of a family than just us. The community was also part of his family. When COVID hit, that was horrible. Thank goodness he nor my mom got it. However, it really took a toll on both of my parents' physical and mental state. Before COVID, they would always make it a point to go out for lunch at least once a day to get them out of the house and see people and visit, just to get out. Not being able to see anyone, not being able to see and converse with people is heart-wrenching. And when one of them would go to the hospital and not be able to visit, it was worse. And in my eyes, somewhat unfair. Unfortunately, rules are rules. Thank goodness most of the time I could help them FaceTime. Mike and I would make it a tradition to have dinner all together at least once per week at their house. And yes, most of the time I cooked it. He at one point told me, "You like to cook, don't you? It's really good." It's his kind words I'll never forget. My dad and mom couldn't have asked for better neighbors. They would all be looking out for them. Allison and Andy and Allison in particular. I've had to call Andy quite a few times in the last year or so of his life to help for reasons I will not mention. And if we needed any additional help, Andy got it for us. Our whole family appreciates them immensely. Later in life, within the past 2 years, I would go to my parents' house almost every day after work and on weekends to go for a short walk with my dad down the sidewalk with his walker. He'd get all bundled up if it was cool, and most of the time was eager and ready to walk, wanting so badly to build up his strength. I think during these walks we had our best talks about everything and anything. You know them, you think you know them, and then, well, boom, there's more to them. I hold those talks close to my heart. It's your determination I'll never forget. One night we decided to take a walk in the dark, and it began to rain. Mom was helping us get him under the umbrella over his head. Yep, we got wet. It was a good thing, though. He got to feel the rain on his face. Caring and helping my dad really brought us much closer than I could ever imagine. If I didn't make it to their house that day, 9 times out of 10, I would get a phone call at home in the evening from him, even if it was just for some small talk. Oh, how I miss those calls. I'm more than thankful that my sister, Patty, whom I brought straight to the hospital from the airport, and my brother Rick, and I were able to spend a couple of hours with him just talking, reminiscing and telling on each other from what we did as kids growing up. He thought we were angels. Well, I was. You can tell he enjoyed that. That was the last time we were able to speak with him as he went on his journey to a better place of peace and no pain. The last words embedded in my head was that I told him to sleep well. I love you, Dad. And in return, he told me the same, and that he loved me. I know this is true. My dad, and I think I can speak from all of us, is the most caring, compassionate, understanding man I've ever had the honor of knowing. I'm so proud to have been his daughter, or am his daughter. In closing, my dad was not a writer. I have every single card my parents gave me for my birthday and anniversary, complete with the contents in it. These were not only special since my mom made them, but he himself signed his own name. This year it was missing. Those small things can really hit you hard. In addition, my dad has written me 2 letters I still have. Here's one of the letters. To my daughter, Marcia. This girl and mailbox is for you. We looked all over Texas for one. Now both of my daughters have one. Keep it and never forget me. I love you, Dad. P.S. I have one. Dad, we could never forget you. And as you always said when we would go to your appointments or wherever our destination, we got her made now.
Thank you, Marcia. Wonderful tribute. I now invite Patty to come forward and share some thoughts with us.
Good morning. Thank you so much for coming together with us to share some of my dad's life with you. We really appreciate it. He loved God. He loved his family. He loved people, especially children. Oh my gosh, he was a kid right along with them. And he loved his country and Willie Nelson. The only channel on Sirius XM was Willie Nelson. That's the only thing he wanted to listen to. So I'm just going to talk about a couple of things about Dad's parenting. I don't ever remember him spanking, yelling, but everything was done with patience and I'll talk about a couple experiences I had. And Mike Snyder, this is your brother that was with us, learning how to drive. My dad got rid of the stick just before I was learning how to drive and got an automatic station wagon with the wood paneling. So we take off from the house and Mike's in the back, or Chuck's in the back, and my dad's sitting next to me, and we turn, forgive me if I don't remember all the names of the roads, but Collins. So we're going up Collins, and then Dad wanted me to turn, and there was this huge ditch with a little bridge over it, and there was a car there, and I'm like, I'm not turning. So Dad took the wheel, put your hands on the wheel, Patty, and we went around, got through that, and then as we were coming back and turned off of Collins Road onto Guilford Road, I went through the neighbor's lawn, and then I did a really sharp turn into our driveway, and my dad kept saying, bushes, 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 brake, brake, brake. I didn't hit the bushes, but when Chuck got out of the back of the car, it was like, whoa. So the next thing that happened is I ended up taking driver's training through the school. I think he was done with that. And the store, gosh, we love this store. He loved that store so much, and talking to everybody that came through there. And he taught all us kids, you know, the workings of the store. I started as a cashier, which I was too young to ring up a lot of different things. So he started, well, let's try you in frozen food. So it's like my hands would go numb. And he says, okay. How about meat? Let's try meat. And so I thought, ooh, I get to work with Howard Hober, Charlie Cove, and my dad. So the first thing they gave me to slice was liver. When I got done with that, my dad says, maybe we'll try the baby food aisle. So I ended up working in the baby food aisle. Every Sunday, because at that time, the store was not open on Sundays. So Dad would tell Mom that we were gonna go over and just take care of a few little things. We beeline to the candy rack. I have a sweet tooth you can't believe. It was either the candy rack or ice cream. We'd kind of enjoy it, take a little time, maybe do a couple little things, and then we'd go home and Mom would have dinner made and we weren't hungry. So that was really fun at the store. He taught us a lot about working, work ethics, things like that. All of us, all our kids are hardworking. Our children are very hardworking. They have goals, and our great-grandchildren, you know, we're very, very lucky that he passed that down to each one of us. He was very, very kind, caring, patient, and he's passed that on to all of us kids, and we're passing it down to our kids and so forth. So I'm really proud of what our children have done. It's really great. The other thing I wanted to chat about was the babbling. I'd call Mom, Dad every week, and we'd call until Mom and I would talk until we ran out of spit, as Dad would say. And she says, okay, it's time for you to talk to your dad. So I'd talk to my dad, and he says, can you even talk anymore? No problem, Dad. I've got this. So one of the things, especially right now, is what I'm missing is, you know, when you get to the point where you're thinking about retirement and that work gets a little harder, you would like to think about retiring, but I don't have any hobbies yet. I gotta work on that. I don't have any hobbies when I retire. But I would always call and talk to Dad, and he would give me some great advice. Sometimes not so great advice, but he was always there to listen to me at least. And it was just very, very helpful. Now my mother has to listen to it. Sorry, Mom. Anyway, I don't want to take up a whole lot of time, but he was a great parent. He instilled so much on us, and I see it in our kids. Jason and Kevin are here today with their well, some of their kids. And then we've got Nikki and Pat, and we've got Elena and her family, and Ashley. We're just really, really grateful for the family that we have, and that we're not afraid to try anything, like skateboarding down a really steep driveway. He rollerbladed in our garage. Thank goodness he didn't break anything at that time. And he rode my horse, which was an Arab. That was interesting. I didn't think we could get him off there once we got him up there. And the mechanical bull. Who would think my dad would ride the mechanical bull? So the man wasn't afraid of trying anything. Even the computer that we bought him a touch screen. And he was trying so hard to play solitaire on the touch screen, and he says, I really don't like this Windows 11. I said, Dad, you can use the mouse. No, I don't like this Windows 11. He kept trying to move his cards with his fingers and that. And finally it's like, yeah, Dad, I don't like Windows 11 either. So he tried everything with all the kids. And it was really nice to see that he would interact with our children, our grandchildren. And he was just full of surprises. You just never knew what he would come up with next. But I really, really, truly appreciate him for everything he has taught us and taught the people around him about caring. And loving. Sorry, Dad. He's with us. I knew when we, like Marcia said, I was very grateful. I was able to get there to see my father before he passed. I think God helped me in that area so I could see him. Before I left, I said, Dad, you're really tired, aren't you? And he says, yes. Yes, I am. Are you done? He says, I'm tired, Patty. So I know what that meant. I didn't know it was going to happen that fast, but I'm kind of glad it did. Because he really struggled, because he said the golden years were not golden. He did not like the golden years at all. But very grateful to all of you that were part of his life. And we appreciate all of you, all of his kids. Thank you.
And thank you, Patty, for sharing those things. So. Now, I would offer any of you who has a story or a special memory of Don a chance to share. The mic will be brought to you. Mara has it right there at the back. You don't need to come up here. Who would like to share something? You can just stand where you are, and she can bring that right to you. Does someone have something to share? Right here.
Hi, I'm Jason. I have the distinction of being the first grandson. Thanks, Mom, for helping with that. And what I really thought about was, when I think about Grandpa, is his legacy and how he treated his grandkids. I know Kevin and I would come in the summers to stay with Grandma and Grandpa, and those were very special times. A lot of great memories, walks to the Cuckoo Cow to get ice cream. We did that quite a bit because he loved ice cream. But last night I was sitting in his chair at Grandma's and had my granddaughter in my lap, and I understood kind of what that love is. And yeah, I love you, Abby. And that's what I have to say.
Thank you, Jason. Who else has something to share?
For those of you who don't know me, I'm Ashley, a granddaughter. One of my best memories of Grandpa was his laugh. When you got him going, his whole body would shake, and it was a silent laugh, and you just couldn't help. I mean, Mom said it perfectly when you said he had infectious laughter. So I just remember the times when he would really get going and his whole body would just absolutely shake. I remember secret trips to the kitchen to steal black licorice off the counter. Do remember that a lot. And I think for every one of his grandkids, he had a nickname. And somehow I ended up with Knothead. I have no idea about that one, but he had a funny sense of humor that I'm gonna really, really miss. So.
Thank you, Ashley. Anyone else would like to share a memory or say a few words?
Don was my uncle, and I've heard people talk about Uncle Don's infectious laughter, and Patty talked about how Uncle Don wanted to always try things. Not everything, not everything. Don was in the hospital one time over in Saginaw, and I went over to visit him, and he was in traction. He had his right foot up in the air, he was flat out on the bed and couldn't move. And I, being the loving nephew that I was, threatened to paint his toenails red. Yeah, that's when you saw Don's entire body start to shake. But he was not about to let me paint his toenails red.
Thank you for sharing. Someone else? Over here.
I'm Nathan, Rick and Terry's oldest. I'm never gonna forget the weird gifts you got me for Christmas. From funny underwear to an outhouse Santa that is on my mantle every Christmas. Yeah, I got you back though. You have a twerking Santa snowman, a singing Pooh. I'll never forget those things. I'll never forget that sense of humor that I think he laughed harder than I did, because he was and it all started when I was in college, and he gave me these smiling bed sheets. And he's like, well, you should always go to bed with a smiling face next to you. And I lost it. I'm like, this is my grandfather. This is the first time. I was like, this is great. This is great. And it started from there. And now we have like Cookie Monster underwear and just all sorts of weird things that I will now treasure forever. And it was him, all those funny things that he did to make everything just a little bit more special.
Thank you very much for sharing those. Somewhere over here, I believe, right here.
Hi, I'm Sue. I'm a niece. And I can just only tell you that you've talked about how caring he is, not only to his family, but to his extended family. Because we would call on occasion to catch up, see how things were going. And if we missed a call, if it had been too long, undoubtedly we were going to get that call from Uncle Don. And it was always nice to know that he would reach out to us if we hadn't been right on the ball, because we all do get busy from time to time, but he would always make that call to us and just check in to see how we were doing.
Thank you, Sue. Anyone else?
I'll try. I'm a little shaky, but I'm Nikki Nicole, Rick and Terry's middle. I think we've all seen it in the pictures. Grandma and Grandpa had awesome love. And my last visit to see Grandpa, energy was depleting, but we started talking about Grandma. Oh, it's a good woman. Oh, she's a good woman. I mean, his energy just spiked right up. 71 years, Nikki, 71 years we're gonna celebrate. It's like, oh, Grandpa, that's amazing. And it is amazing. But we all see it. and even my girls see it, because a couple days later they came down to visit, and Grandpa FaceTimed Grandma. What did he, hey there, hot stuff. He answered the FaceTime with, hey there, hot stuff to Grandma. I'm like, I am so thankful that they got to see that and hear that too, because that, we talk about his patience and his hard work and his caring. 71 years rooted into this family. That's real love. It's fun love. It's romantic love. And I'm so happy that we all have it.
Thank you, Nikki. Anyone else like to share?
Sure you don't want this, Terry? Okay, I'll give it to you if you want it first. Aunt Louise, you're gonna have to help me out with this one. I was Don's nephew, and very proud to say that. And I've heard a lot of stories and things along the years. I guess when Don and Louise were, this is what I've heard, were first dating, my grandfather Greaves really liked Louise. And they wanted him to marry Louise. From what I understand, my grandfather really had to encourage Don to ask Louise for her hand in marriage. Is that true, Aunt Louise? And there was also this time, I guess, during Thanksgiving, where they had problems with the turkey, and they wound up at a restaurant, I believe, and had hot dogs, something along those lines. A lot of very interesting stories to go along with those. And I remember them going up to my grandparents in Lupton on Rifle Lake, and Don and Rick and everybody helped put the roof on. And Don was always a hardworking individual, it seemed like, but he came along. But I'm going to read something. You have to excuse me because my eyesight right now is not doing good. So, do you want to do it? I'm going to let my daughter read this because I don't have my phone, it's not big enough, and I have a hard time reading it, but it's a funeral poem, and it means a lot if you really listen to it. And as I'm getting advanced in years, I go to more and more funerals, and this was read at a funeral, and it meant a whole lot to me. So thanks to my daughter, Christina, she's going to read this for me.
It's the Dash poem by Linda Ellis. I read of a man who stood to speak at the funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates on the tombstone from the beginning to the end. He noted that the first came to the date of birth and spoke to the following date with tears, but he said that what mattered to the most was the dash between those years. For that dash represents all the time that they spent alive on earth, and now only those that love them know what that little line is worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters is how we live and love and how we spend our dash. So think about this long and hard. Are there things you'd like to change? For you never know how much time is left that can still be rearranged. If we could just slow down enough to consider what's true and real, and always try to understand the way other people feel, and be less quick to anger, and show appreciation more, and love the people in our lives like we've never loved before. If we treat each other with respect, and more often wear a smile, remembering this special little dash might only last a little while. So when your eulogy is being read, with your life's actions to rehash, would you be proud of the things they say about how you spent your dash?
Thank you to both of you.
Thank you, Christy.
I'll be quick. Said I'd never. Anyways, I'm not sure what happened to my husband because he was going to speak, practiced all last night, and said, Terry, you're my pitch hitter if I do what I'm doing. But there's two things that he was going over in his head that I really just want to talk about. One, Don did have a wild side. He did have that little bit of side to him that came out. came out in a flight with his dad. Rick is probably the age of our kids, our grandkids. Went up in that two-seater one time. And on the way up, Don says, "You want to do a stall out?" Well, being a boy, Rick's like, yeah, let's do it. And so Rick said, "I didn't realize that you could get that plane going so fast that you just see sky. That's all you can see." Because he said, "I wasn't big enough to look over the side, but in front of me, there was just sky." And Dad had that plane just going so high that it beat gravity and stalled out. And he says he looked over to his dad, and his dad's working real fast to get that plane started. But that was that energy that Don brought every now and then. And then Rick wanted to talk about the song, "He Walks With Me and He Talks With Me." Now that song is based on Matthew, the Garden of Gethsemane, Mary with Jesus. And I said, just don't be blasphemous about this. Remember, the song is really about Jesus. And he says, "But Dad still walks and talks with me." I see him in my sisters. I see him in my kids. I see him in my grandkids. Just as you guys all mentioned, the hard work, the ethics that the kids have, the importance of family, the importance of laughter. Oh, that laugh. You know, I mean, you couldn't even see it sometimes. His whole body just shake, but there's no sound coming out. And just like Marcia said, and you would bust out laughing because there he is with that big laughter. But Rick's right. Even though Don's not physically here, he is still here. And all of our memories and all of the things that he taught us, and he taught my children. Rick also mentioned, you know, when you went to Grandma and Grandpa Greaves, you were to be seen and not heard. It was, you know, back in those days, the kids were to be quiet and off and not be with the kids, but not Don and Louise. Don and Louise embraced every grandchild, every great-grandchild, and loved them to pieces. And I know that they all know that Grandpa loved them. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry, for that. Anyone else would like to share? Well, I need some direction here. My notes have us ending with Rick offering some thoughts, or did we just hear your thoughts? You're all set? Okay, all right. Well, I wanted to make sure that all happened, yes. The way we'd like, and there you go. So.
I spent hours putting all my thoughts together. Thank you, Terry. Ashley. Gotcha, I got one. Yep. Dennis. Sue. God, you guys are, yeah. He walks with me and he talks with me. When we were making plans for this day, one of the questions came up, what psalm or what passage would you like to see on the bulletins? Of course, I blurted out, you know, that walks with me and talks with me, tells me I am his own. And Mike looked at me and he said, "You mean in the garden?" "Sure." And he said, well, my sisters said, Mom said, yeah, that sounds good. It's not biblical, but, you know, it's okay. This was written by C. Austin Miles back in 1912. It was inspired by a passage in the book John 20, verse 1 through 18. It's when Jesus and Mary Magdalene met in the Garden of Gethsemane. This was after the resurrection. The song is filled with optimism. It's filled with sadness, and it's filled with caring comfort. It has all the components of a really good song. The message that I got out of that song, after reading up on it, was that you're never alone. Even in death, we are never alone. But when I blurted it out, it was because I heard it in the shower and it stuck with me. So that was that. So I'm glad my sisters didn't try to talk me out of it or try to talk into something else, because it fits Dad, as you can tell. Everybody that got up and had something to say. Oh, and thanks, Ken. It's on my notes. Thank you. Hour and a half on this. Some of the things you didn't know about Dad was he tried his hand at square dance calling. If any of you know anything about square dancing, it's a get-together where they all dress up, and you have somebody, while there's music playing, call out your next move. And he tried his hand at that. Didn't go very far with it, but it was interesting to see him do it. And that's where his choir singing started, basically, besides the shower thing. He sang in a church choir. The wild side of him, or wild-ish side of him, you'd always give the organist a chocolate bar. I think it was a form of bribery, because when it came to the men's time to sing, she'd play louder, something like that. So the laughing, thanks about 4 of you on that. Dad had a convertible, and so that was kind of wild, to own a convertible. Mom hated it while it was stationary, but when it went down the road, it would go flap, 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 flap. Can you imagine that conversation Mom and Dad having, going down the road, 50, 60 miles an hour? Can't hear anything. Don, I have to use the bathroom. No, I got plenty of gas. We can make it. No, I have to go to the bathroom. Well, if I need to get gas, I'm not getting it here because it's 22 cents a gallon. It's cheaper up here, 19 cents a gallon. So that was his convertible. Now the airplane ride, that was quite a, thanks, dear. Maybe some of you didn't know this, that Marcia, Patty, and I have a half brother. His name is Ira. He was Mom's firstborn. Dad knew him. Dad cared for him. They were married for about 6 months, and he asked Mom if he could adopt Ira. You can see him on there, right next to Dad's, on the pictures, Dad's convertible. He would be in his mid-70s or early 70s if he were to be able to live today, alive today. But 6 months after they got married, he had passed away of kidney disease. So he loved you whether he knew you or not. Mom's first birthday for Ira was a bowl turned upside down with a candle on it. That's it says a lot. At least you recognized it, even though he didn't. So anyways, in closing, out of all the years except for the past couple, when I would talk to Dad on the phone, and this, my kids would mention this too, when you got done with the conversation, you'd say goodbye. He never said goodbye until the last couple of years of his life. My dad took it on the chin. He took it hard. Every time he went into the hospital, he came out with a lesson. And it finally caught up with him to where his will was being challenged. He knew his mom or his wife was being taken care of. He knew we were going to take care of mom. And the last night of his life, he was on 10 liters of oxygen. He had a complete whiteout. All you could see was the pacemaker. And we couldn't even understand how he could even be alive, how he could even get air into him. But they put him on 10 liters of oxygen, and that is a lot. That is a ton. So he had to keep this mask on. Well, that night, he took the mask off. It has an alarm on it. Nurses come in, say, Don, you gotta keep that mask on. They go back to doing their thing. He took it off again. And they come back in and said, Don, we're gonna have to put a, what's it called? CPAP on. It's strapped in. He looked at them and said, no, I don't want it. So the two of them sat there with Dad. And as he started to struggle, they gave him the morphine to help him move on. He knew what he was doing. He had had enough. He knew we would be okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick, for those words. So, as a congregation, we're going to now sing In the Garden, 314 in your hymnals. And again, please stand if you are able. May be seated. And we know that Don is experiencing the fullness of that joy. I think one of the very best measures of a life well lived is to be able to say that the person loved and was loved. You, his loved ones, are evidence of that being true of Don Hill. Today we collectively honor and celebrate his life and what he has meant to each person present. He was a wonderful man who embraced life, understanding what was truly important and will remain forever in your hearts. May you be comforted by your treasured memories of Don, the honor of having known him and being part of his life, and the knowledge that he is surely whole and well in God's care. I'd like to now share a reading by David Harkins, an English painter who wrote this in 1982. I think it offers some very wise advice. You can shed tears that he is gone, or you can smile because he has lived. You can close your eyes and pray that he'll come back, or you can open your eyes and see all that he has left. Your heart can be empty because you can't see him, or you can be full of the love you shared. You can turn your back on tomorrow and live yesterday, or you can be happy for tomorrow because of yesterday. You can remember him only that he is gone, or you can cherish his memory and let it live on. You can cry and close your mind, be empty and turn your back, or you can do what he'd want. Smile, open your eyes, love, and go on. For our final song today, we're going to listen to Angel Flying Too Close to the Ground, sung by his favorite, Willie Nelson.
If you had not have fallen, then I would not have found you. Angel flying too close to the ground. And I patched up your broken wing and hung around a while. Trying to keep your spirits up and your fever down. I knew someday that you would fly away. For love's the greatest healer to be found. So leave me if you need to. I still remember angel flying too close to the ground.
that, yes. Do you please bow your heads for our closing prayer? Dear Heavenly and Eternal Father, the source of all that is, thank you for granting your peace and comfort to all gathered here. We are deeply grateful to you for the life of Don Hill and what he has meant to each one present. Thank you for the knowledge that he is safe with you at this very moment, basking in your love, compassion, grace, and glory. We thank you for the comfort promised to all by Jesus, for your strength and grace that will surround and uphold all gathered here. May they feel your love surrounding them, and grant them your perfect peace as they leave this place and return to their daily lives. It is in Christ's name we pray. Amen. This concludes Don's memorial service. Thank you for coming and sharing your love and support with one another. Please know I offer my deepest sympathy to each one of you, the family and friends of this very special man. We're now going to be stepping outside for military honors afforded by the United States Air Force and Caro's American Legion Post number 7. Immediately after that, we'll be going to the Memorial Garden for a short committal service. After that, you're cordially invited to a luncheon in the Fellowship Hall here, where you may continue to celebrate Don's life and share your memories. If you don't want to go outside with us, you are welcome to make your way to the Fellowship Hall once being dismissed. So if you please remain seated, and the Ransford Collins staff will dismiss you. Again, thank you for your caring presence.